Welcome back to another episode of Modified Rides Podcast. Today I have someone who has become probably one of the biggest names in the automotive photography world right now. I knew him pretty much right after he started in this industry. He's actually shot a cover for me back in 2014. I want to welcome Dale Martin. What's going on, Dale?
Hey there, buddy. How you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, you've become, I guess I've heard the term, the godfather of automotive photography now. So
Yeah, a friend of mine started that a long time ago. Started calling me Godfather. A guy by the name of Joel Chan. He used to work with American Force. You probably know him.
Oh yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
Joel started that whole thing, and then Sean started calling me that, and it's kind of taken on the what it is.
I think
I'm
that
probably the
the
oldest person in the industry.
uh, probably that still shoots now that Joe's retired. Now Joe Greaves is retired. You probably
Yeah,
I'm not far behind you though.
yeah, yep.
So those that aren't familiar with Dale has a very distinctive look with his photos. We were talking before we started recording. I was just writing a couple articles for a magazine. They sent me the folders of the photos. I knew immediately they were Dale's. Like I'm one of those ones like I follow enough of the big photographers like Dale that you look at their photos, you can tell whose is whose just based on everybody's style. That's kind of the reason that Dale shot my blue truck, my Project Decade. I shot it for the cover of Truck, and then I reached out to Dale before SEMA 14 and was like, I want you to shoot it because, for one, regardless of where I shoot something, if it's the same vehicle 10 times, 10 different locations, it looks like my shots. That's the only way to put that. While
Right,
another photographer shoots it, their style gives that truck a completely different look. And those on
right.
the video side, they're actually hanging behind me here. You look at Dale's cover versus my trucking cover, it looks like two completely different trucks, which is one of the reasons I reached out to Dale because I wanted that look for lifted and level.
Right.
So
I remember that
Dale,
shoot. That was after an all night of driving to Vegas, and then meeting you there. I think we got right in there in the hotel, and I jumped right in a rental car and drove over there to meet you for that. And we've been driving all night because the trucks kept breaking
yeah,
down.
it was still dark when we left that morning, if I remember.
It was. It was. That was a long day, but it came out good.
But that's what SEMA's about. If you're there shooting, you're there.
That's right. That's right.
Oh no, now you shoot so much stuff at SEMA. You shot what? How much you shoot last year?
Over 60.
In how many days?
The weekend before and the weekend after.
That's crazy though.
So
So
figure Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then the weekend before, and then Saturday and Sunday the week after that. And that's all Truck Guru stuff, some of Robbie stuff from Keg and Bodyguard. So it's
yeah,
three
I
different
had a
things. Juggling, and most of them are Chris Payne's builds.
I know you'd sent me a like a screenshot of your spreadsheet of what you had to shoot, and I'm just like, how do you keep up with that to know what
It's
time?
a nightmare because people's detailers don't show up on time. People can't make it out there. It's probably 2 months before SEMA putting that together and getting everybody down with their times and everything. And then during the weekends, Eric and I are out there on the lake bed just chasing people around and trying to get everybody there on time. And I'm given a half hour per slot, and it's balls to the wall both
So
weekends.
so Dale's a little story's a little different than mine. I started 23 years ago doing this as a side gig. Started shooting, started with street trucks and then kind of blew up trucking, mini trucking, bounced around a bunch of different titles. Well, Dale decided to take a different approach to us. So, what did you do for most of your life before you got into being a photographer?
I was an IT director at a law firm.
So, you didn't deal with photography or vehicles or nothing.
I bought a 2003 Mustang GT and a Nikon D80. At the same time, started taking pictures of the Mustang. And then I got in on some Mustang forums and started taking pictures of other people's Mustangs. And they're like, man, you should do this for a living. And I said, yeah, that'd be nice. That's a dream job. But, and everybody kept telling me, man, you can't make money shooting cars. You can't make money shooting cars. And I started taking on part-time work doing editing at night for Vorsteiner Wheels. And everybody's like, man, you're making everybody else look good. You need to start shooting your own stuff. Just quit your job and do it. And a friend of mine that I had met through Pepper Yandell uh, called me one night and said, "What would it take you to quit your job and come work for us at this exotic dealership?" And I said, "Huh? I've paid a lot of my bills down, and my kids are pretty much grown up, you know." Then I gave him a figure, and he came back and said, "Let's do it." So I walked in my boss's office and said, "I'm going to go be a photographer." And he just laughed at me and said, "Do what makes you happy, buddy. If that makes you happy, you've been here 17 years, go be happy. Go do what you want to do." And I got that job and worked it for 2 months and then got laid off
Really?
and had nothing. And I went to SEMA with a friend of mine and stood out there miserable the whole time because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no job. I have
What
nothing.
year was this?
That was in 2013.
Okay.
So I went to SEMA, shot a couple of shots for a friend of mine that I rode out there with, came back, and Sean from Complete Customs had posted up on Facebook that he had a Jeep that he needed shot that had just come back from SEMA. And everybody kept saying, Dale Martin's your guy, Dale Martin's your guy, Dale Martin's your guy. And he said, he hit me up and he says, what would it take to shoot my Jeep? And I gave him a price, and he never got back with me. And I finally got back with him. I said, "Hey, are we going to shoot this Jeep or not?" And he said, "Yeah, let's go ahead and do it." And I shot the Jeep and gave the images back to Sean. And Sean's like, "You want a job?" You
That
want
was
to go shoot?
the wasn't that like a black and gray or a camo one or something?
That was a black and gray camo Jeep. That was the first issue of Lifted Leveled, actually.
I remember
And
that.
and we were riding to lunch one day, and he goes, "Man, to be honest with you, I looked at your website, and there's no way I could afford you." And I said, if I was without a job, I probably would have shot that Jeep for a bag of groceries, to be honest with you. I mean, I was in a world of hurt. And Sean kind of took me under his wing and showed me the way in the truck industry. That's where I got my start. It was really with Sean.
You were living in the same city at the time?
I was living over probably about 20 miles from where Sean is.
I couldn't remember if you had lived in Texas the whole time or if you were somewhere else or something.
I lived in Texas until 2016, and then I went up with Chris Wyman to Colorado to Durango, and we ran Mountain Motion Media up there I think I was there for like 3 years, and then I came back to Dallas and started working for Sean again.
Oh, I forgot about that. Y'all had the other, what would you say it was? Mountain Motion?
Mountain Motion Media, yeah, that was with Chris Wyman. That was the guy that got me started in the industry, pulling me from my job. If it wouldn't have been for him, I wouldn't have quit my job and gone and done this. He said, "You got a talent, go out there and do something with it." And he pushed me along, and like I said, we worked together for 3 years up there. We still work together on Amsoil projects all the time.
Now, like I said, I know my story and several other people that I'm friends with in the photography world kind of did the same thing I did. They started with the side gig weekends and stuff where you just
Mm-hmm.
pretty much handed the whole towel in and said, let's go full
I
force.
mean, I
So
did it. I did it on weekends and charged my friends a little. Mainly, it was I had a lot of friends that knew how to work on Mustangs, and I was always modifying my Mustang. So I would go over there and shoot their cars, and they'd work on my car for me. I'd
a little trade out.
new differentials, cams, anything I needed done, I would go barter for it, basically. And then I started getting paid, like I said, doing freelance editing at night. I'd work at my job till 7 o'clock at night, and then I'd come home and work till about 2 o'clock in the morning doing editing. I was doing that like 7 days a week.
Been there, done that with all the all the stuff over the
And the
years.
funny thing about it is, I quit my job. I quit my job, and then when I got laid off, the first person I called was my boss. And I said, "Hey, my job's still open." He goes, "No, we actually hired somebody for that." And if you remember, probably in 2014 or 15, The Drive wrote an article about me being the most prominent truck photographer in the
Mm-hmm.
country. And I sent that to my boss, and he wrote me back, and he goes, "This is the reason I didn't hire you back.
Oh
Because
wow.
because if I would have hired you back, you wouldn't have gone after your dream." So, he's like, "Proud of you. You did what you need to do, and it took a lot of intestinal fortitude and a lot of sacrificing."
Well, I know when if you said that was the first issue of Lift and Leveled that
Yeah, yeah,
Sean's
that was
Jeep was in.
volume one. Yep.
I know when I had Brian McGee on, me and him were talking. I think you and Brian pretty much established what that magazine was from day one. Y'all's
Basically,
style
yeah, basically
made
we had
that.
all the covers on it. A few would slip in here and there. Solomon did a couple of covers, and a couple other guys did covers. You did a cover or two, but mainly it was the Dale and Brian show for a
And
long
that's the
time.
thing. Anytime Rich would call me and be like, "Hey, I need a photo shoot," I'm like, this is stressful because now I've got to have a Dale and Brian look, or it's not going to fit the magazine theme.
Yeah,
So I know one of the dub covers I did, I'm like, man, I have to have this style or it won't fit.
right.
Which is another reason I wanted you to shoot my truck because your style was so different than mine. Um, but I guess back then you were using strobes and stuff all the time. You don't use them that much now, do you?
Rarely. If I shoot inside or if I'm shooting a big job that requires them, I just did a job for RTR a couple weeks ago in North Carolina, and I had to strobe the whole thing. But yeah, most of my stuff's natural light.
Which even you shooting stuff natural light looks nothing like my stuff shooting natural light. I don't understand what you do different, but you have magic to it when you edit your stuff out.
It's
So
just the tricks I've learned over the year. Practice, practice, practice. And just find your niche and find your style. And that was what people always tell me is, I can flip through Instagram or Facebook and I see one of those pictures, I know it's yours.
yep,
That's when you know
100%.
you've established a style. And a lot of people have come close to it and gotten pretty good with it. There's a kid out there right now, Adam Cooper. His stuff is
Mhm.
fantastic. Um, I saw Adam at SEMA first year shot Chris Payne's truck in front of the South Hall, and it was probably one of the best pictures I've ever seen of Chris's trucks. And I said, you watch this kid, he's going to go places, and he's developed his own contrasty, edgy style, and it's taken him a long way. He's shooting
It's
for people like Lacey Blair and other people like that, and Mariah and all those people down in Florida. He's pretty much taken over the truck industry. I kind of handed the baton off to him and let him run with the show scene. Me and Will McDougall used to be the kings of the show scene, and we're off doing other things now.
I know Will kind of does a lot of uh I guess food and like landscape type stuff
He's
now.
doing a lot of video work now, and doing a lot of real estate and stuff up there in Arizona. He's really kicked off something up there.
I know when I was
Proud of
running
him.
street trucks, I had him shoot a couple things for me, and
Yeah,
same thing. I'm like, man, did you strobe this? And he's like, no. I'm like, it looks like it was strobed, and he showed me like the before pictures, and I'm just like,
yeah,
wow, okay.
yeah. I used to, but when I learned to edit on Photoshop when I first started it was I can trick people into thinking I strobed this car. And I had people come to me and go, how'd you strobe that? I'm like, I didn't. It was natural light. No way. I'm like, yeah, that's all natural light. It's just how you composite the images together to make it look like it was strobe. Create shadows, create light sources. And what a lot of people do is when they light things, they don't show a light source. You have to have a light source to show that the light is real. And I learned how to do that in Photoshop before I learned how to use the strobe, to be honest with you.
Well,
Because I would
you're
look at people's strobe work and go, how can I do that with natural light? And it can be done. It
you're one of
takes a
those
lot of
few that
manipulation.
you're one of the few that'll pull the background out. You can shoot something in a Walmart parking lot, and it looks like
Mm-hmm.
it's in the middle of the desert somewhere, and it's like
Yeah.
I have blown your pictures up, zoomed in. I'm like, you can't tell that this was not, and
No.
you'll show the before picture. I'm like, that's in a parking lot, like with
Yeah.
lines and cars, and
Yeah.
like that's crazy to me. I've never mastered that. I don't know if I ever could, but that's just not
It's
my style.
it's a challenge, and I like I like a challenge. Actually, that kind of work relaxes me. It's sit down there and create something. I see it in my mind, and I want to create it on the computer.
Now, if you said you went to SEMA for in 2013 for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
that was actually the year me and my now wife went and saw all the big lifted trucks, and that's when I joked and it's like, I could build one of these. They're really not big on the East Coast. I could build one of these big massive trucks, and
Right.
I could do tech articles on it. Like it just works. It started as a joke in 2013, but so when
Yeah.
you come back in 14, like I said, I know you shot mine. So I guess you did quite a bit that next year at SEMA, didn't you?
I had a few more. I mean, I started out the first year with one, and I went up and I did some stuff for Lifted and Leveled for a couple of shops down in Houston. Me and Eric did those together out there when he and I kind of first started out in this industry together. And Eric Warren was out there with me, and we shot a couple of vehicles. And then it's kind of exponentially grown up since there. I was shooting a lot of stuff for Lived in Level, some stuff for TIS, and Robbie, and some other people. And I shot some stuff for RPB back in the day when I was in Colorado. But yeah, it started. It's kind of funny. I've been going to SEMA since 2013, and it's gone from one car to last year. I think it was like 68 that I did.
Do you even go to the show itself? I think I only pass you like once
Yeah,
every now and then.
I avoid it like the plague. I go over there and see. I go over there and see some of my clients. I go over there and see Kelly at Bodyguard and go see the people at Truck Hero, Lee Drew McGuire, and all those people that I've been doing business with in the past. Go by and
Yeah.
say hi to them, and then skedaddle. I have no. I mean, it's nice to walk around, but my mind is racing, trying to figure out what I'm going to do the next weekend. Trying to plan everything out in my head. So I try to stay focused with that, and it kind of takes away. Like I said, I've gone years where I got to walk around and enjoy it, and really, I just stay away from it as much as possible. I think this
Now,
year I will be because I'll be staying in a hotel over there at the Westgate, so I probably will stroll over there a lot more often. Don't have to worry about parking and all that kind of good stuff. So I may do some walking around over there this year.
we usually stay down at Sahara because it's still semi close.
Hmm.
This year we lucked up and found a room at Renaissance that was still open, and I've wanted to stay there for years because, the Tahoe this year for my wife's actually going with TIS, so we'll walk straight out of the hotel, straight into the
Yeah, that's
TIS
nice.
booth.
Yeah, Eric and I stayed out in Henderson, so it was a cruise out there to get
Hmm.
out there and do that. Um, but you paying $50 to $100 to park over Renaissance, and because the regular lot's already full by the time we get over there, so we tried to stay away, and we do a little editing and do some teasers and stuff that we've done, and just kind of hang loose that week because the weekend after is a nightmare.
Yeah, Eric actually come out and shot my Tundra for Rides magazine, uh, but unfortunately, right after he had shot it, Rides wound up shutting down.
Yep,
So,
yep,
that
they
was
did.
he shot the truck and the trailer and the bike and everything all together, and then the photos come out awesome. We actually
Yeah.
shot it in the Pepsi parking lot one night after work when I was still at Pepsi. So,
Yeah,
um,
that truck was a pretty color. I know he lit it and everything like that, but it was a
oh yeah,
nice truck.
I had several people like, "Why are you building a brown truck? That's ugly." And I saw it, the vision in my head before I even bought the truck. I'm like, "Trust me, wait till it's done." And
Hit,
everybody's like, "Oh, I'm glad you did brown."
hit it with a light and it turns to root beer.
Yep. When did you first start working for Sean down at Complete Customs? That wasn't long
Mm,
after.
that was probably late November, early December of 2013.
What all did you do for him in the beginning?
Just shoot stuff. I shot stuff for him and Robbie both. I had the first cover lived in level, then I shot Robbie's. What was it? I think it was a Tundra, the one that flipped over, the one with the fancy paint
Yeah,
job on the side of it
the
that ended
black
up
one.
flipping over. I
Yeah.
shot that next for Sean and Robbie, and then I think he got Dub Magazine or Lipton Level on that one. And then Sean just started putting me, Sean kind of gave me a stage to dance on. He put me in contacts and he sent my images to the right people, and people became interested and said, hey, yeah, we want this guy shooting for us. And so, Sean and I worked out a deal where I would shoot stuff and help him out, and it was beneficial to both of us.
Well, that was you. So you were there for a little while before you left to Colorado to do your own thing, right?
Well, I was there at Sean's, and then I went to a company called Wheel Experts in Dallas. That didn't last very long, and then I started freelancing on my own. And then I went to Colorado and came back with work with Sean, and worked with Sean for about 2 years, and then I'm freelancing again.
So you've been able to do something that very few of us, custom automotive photographers have done. You've stepped up to now you shoot for Toyota and Lexus. I guess you
Hmm.
do all of their promo stuff now, their catalogs and everything.
No, I do a lot of stuff for accessories.
Okay.
So I
So
work with a production company out of California, and they anytime a new model comes out, all the accessories that go with it. I shoot all the floor mats. I shoot hero shots of some of the stuff we do outdoors. Do a lot of studio work. So that's mainly just the accessories.
Because I know I've seen some of your like behind the scenes of those shoots, and those are like big, almost like movie production sets.
They're big sets. Yeah, there's full production crew, grip crew. It's a big deal.
How did you get hooked up with Toyota?
Through Sean, actually. That's a
Well,
funny
he
story. I mean, I shot some stuff for Toyota social media with Sean when I worked for him, and I was actually coming back from my clients in Arkansas, and Sean sent me a text and said, Malia from uh, the production company is trying to get a hold of you. I said, well, I haven't gotten anything from anybody. And evidently she had sent me a text via Instagram. And if you're not friends with somebody on Instagram, it goes into that folder in the
other
middle of
folder.
nowhere.
Yeah.
And he said, I think she hit you up on Instagram. So if he wouldn't have called me, and the whole deal would have slipped by. And she, said, I've seen some of your work with Sean. We'd be interested in working with you. And that's the rest is history.
It's kind of cool to see, like I said, a fellow, custom automotive photographer shooting for OEM manufacturers like that. I mean,
I
that's
mean, that was
pretty big.
the end goal for me when I first started this thing. When I sat in my office and daydreamed about being a professional photographer, was shooting for an original equipment manufacturer. That was the dream.
Well,
And
Sean builds a lot of their vehicles, don't he? Like their demo vehicles and stuff.
he does. He does a lot of transport for shoots and stuff like that too. That's a whole nother conversation you need to have with Sean. That's a whole different realm there. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, basically, I got my start through that. They saw me doing work for him, and saw me on a couple sets when I was doing behind the scenes stuff for a Lexus shoot. So it kind of worked out in the end.
I know you've shot some pretty crazy stuff over the years. I think one of my favorite shoots of yours was the Jeep that Robbie did with the tracks, and you had the helicopter
Oh
and
my God,
the
that was a
snow.
lot.
Like that was probably one of my favorite shoots you've done.
That was a lot of. That was you talk about it in your head. That shoot was in my head probably 2 months before SEMA. When Sean started building, I'm like, we're gonna shoot this, right? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, I said, we're gonna shoot this in the mountains, right? And he goes, yeah, we'll probably hit it up on the way back. And I got with Chris was already living up in Colorado, and I got with him. I said, "Hey, we got that Jeep on tracks that Robbie's building. We need to shoot it up in Durango somewhere." And he said, "Well, bring it through." And he said, I said, "Let's get it. Let's see if we can get a helicopter." Because what I had envisioned was having a helicopter with some spec ops guys hanging out of the side of it and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But that was a whole different story. we kind of ran out of time. We we Robbie trailed it into Durango. We drove around for 2 days looking for snow. There was not any snow to be found.
Really?
And we're up near Purgatory Resort, the ski lodge up there. Come around the corner and these guys sitting out there in tents smoking pot, and we pull up and say, "Hey man, there's some snow." And he looked over by the tree and there was a little snow around the tree. And he goes, "Yeah, there's snow right over here." I said, "No, we need enough snow to shoot a Jeep in with a helicopter." And he goes, "Okay." He goes, "Well, there's a place up there in the La Plata Range. You got to drive about 20 miles up the mountain to get to it, but there's a big bowl up there and it's full of snow right now." So we trailered that Jeep all the way up there in Chris's F-150 with the transmission smoking all the way up there, and got it up there. And we had I'd say we probably had maybe 20 minutes of light. That's why if you ever look at that video, we're all rushing around like chickens with their heads cut off,
Yeah.
because we had about 10 minutes with the helicopter to pull that shoot off.
That was probably one of the most epic
It
shoot,
was an exciting shoot. It was a lot of fun.
and that still I think that broke the internet when it first dropped, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's fake," and I'm like,
Oh, everybody said it was Photoshop. Even when I
"Yeah."
posted the video up there, like, "Oh, it's Photoshop." I'm like, no, no. I was up there and freezing my ass off with a hoodie on and jeans because I had just come from Vegas and I didn't have any winter clothes with me.
Oh yeah, it was right after SEMA, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I drove back with Robbie from Las Vegas to Durango in his hauler, and we pulled into Durango and got up next morning and started scouting locations.
I remember him driving down the strip with those tracks on that Jeep, like you heard him
Mhm.
just roaring as he passed you. That was pretty cool to see him drive. That was that. Does that one of your top favorite shoots? Like, what do you have a top shoot of yours that is your favorite?
That's one of them. The one behind me with the Jeep up on the rocks in the middle of Uh, Animas River is probably my favorite shoot, and that was
That
done
actually
with
looks entertaining.
that. That was done with Kelly from Bodyguard. We were up there shooting some product for her up there, and this guy that was from Durango, we built his Jeep up with all of Kelly's parts on it, and we drove up to Silverton. And that's shot in June. It's snowing like crazy out there
Really?
because we're 10,000 feet above where town is, and it's just snowing like nuts out there. And we're over there shooting a truck, and this guy goes running around in the Jeep, and he comes back, goes, "Man, I found the perfect location." I'm like, "I'm gonna finish this truck, and I'm done for the day. I'm freezing my butt off. I'm tired. I'm ready to call it for the day." He goes, "No, no, no, you got to go see this location." And Chris goes, "Just humor him. Go over there and humor him." And when he drove that thing up there, I'm like, it was like the angels started singing. I was like, this is probably the most epic scene that I've ever been able to shoot. Snow coming down, the river raging by, and then he's trying to pull the Jeep back off to change the angle on it, and slides on some moss and almost ends up in the river. We had to winch that thing off the rocks.
Good thing it probably had a winch on it. So
We had two trucks out there with winches on it, thank goodness, and we winched it back off. But it was when I that was one set I could not wait to get back and edit. And when I pulled up on the computer, I said, "This is the moment that I quit my job for."
I know all those photographers, we have all those, behind the scenes stories of stuff like that, you can close your eyes and know where you're at, what was going on. Like
Mhm.
stuff like that sticks with us. And, I've had stuff where cops are involved and that kind of
Oh, I've
stuff.
been through that too. I've had people pull guns on me. It's, but to stand out there and say, "This is my office for today," you can't
Yep.
beat that. There's no job, no, nothing more rewarding than that.
Yeah. I've not had the privilege to get out in any kind of remote locations like that to shoot. It's something that's kind of on my photography bucket list. I just
That was a
hadn't.
good. That was a good thing about living in Durango. And we go up. We were like 3 hours from Moab, so we got to Moab all the time. It's just there was never a lack of locations out there.
Yeah, we don't have many of those around here.
Here in Dallas either. Here in Dallas
so
either.
So what's the future look like for Dale Martin photography? Do you have anything big in the works? Do you have some goal you want to set yourself to?
Nope, just status quo. Making a living, doing what I love.
So do I guess you're still locked in with the whole Lexus Toyota thing. I guess they only hit you up every so often because they don't
Yeah,
release vehicles.
when new models come out, I'll be back out there with them. But right now, everything's all been released and all been shot, so it's a holding pattern. It could be next year sometime before that happens.
Now,
My next big thing is SEMA, and that's looming around the corner.
you still hit quite a few of the bigger shows and stuff and
No,
shoot stuff for people, don't you?
no, LST. That's the only show I do anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you did a few of Robbie's or something, but I guess being in Texas.
No, I haven't. Last show I shot for Robbie was that big show he had at the Cowboy Stadium.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, I don't do shows anymore. I can't. It's not advantageous. And like I said, a lot of people don't know who I am anymore. I used to walk through shows and it'd be like, "Hey, there's Dale. There's Dale." Now it's like so much time has gone by and I've moved on to different avenues. It's like that's where I was talking about Adam earlier. Adam's kind of stepped into that limelight with being the go-to guy for the truck world.
Yeah,
You
he
know, him
definitely
and
has
him
a.
and Tucker, him and Tucker Harrison, Jonathan, all those guys, they still do it, and I look up to those guys for doing it because that's a hard life. Driving all over the place, paying expenses, and not knowing whether you're going to get any shoots or not.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of speculation. It's a lot of chasing, trucks down. Sometimes it's a lot. You get there, you got to scramble, find locations to shoot in. It's you know, yeah, all those guys, Grady and all those guys, they're good at that, and they've done pretty well for themselves. But
I
that's a good way to
prefer.
get in front of aftermarket manufacturers. They see that work from those shows. It comes back to pay you back.
I um I prefer to shoot stuff out of like not at a show.
Hmm.
I've done 20 plus years of shooting at shows. I've shot you know 8 to 10 after a show on a Saturday afternoon before the sun sets, like blowing through them. But it's like I would much rather shoot where there's not a rush. And, I've had people like, well, I'd rather go eat dinner with my friends and have my truck shot. And I'm just like, okay, well,
Mhm.
that's you. But,
Yeah.
but I would rather, line stuff up at shows is what I usually do now. If they're within somewhat of a driving distance for me, and then
Right.
I'll shoot something after the fact, or try to get a couple guys together and go spend a weekend somewhere and shoot something. I
Right.
feel like get a better shoot doing that versus trying to rush at a show.
Yeah. I mean, I did. I shot a lot of features. Most of my shows were done when I was with Specialty Forge all those years. I was with Specialty probably 3 or 4 years. I went to every show with those guys, and then I would shoot. They would have different trucks from all over the country at the shows, and I would take them out and shoot features for them for their website.
They still do wheels.
Don't know.
I
Don't know.
don't think I've seen them in a while. But I remember I forgot about that. You shot all their stuff there pretty much back
Everything
to
on
back.
their website is my work. Me and I think Warren did all the video, and I did all the photo work on that.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, so you're still currently working with Sean at Complete Customs?
I I do contract work with him. I shoot if he's got a vehicle that needs to be shot. Like I was up there shooting a '61 Cadillac convertible um, this last week. So I mean, he calls me when he needs something shot.
So other than that, you just kind of you're your own schedule at that point. You're not.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do some work with Point Blank Performance. I go out there every month to Arkansas and do all his stuff for his website and his social media, or his photo work. He's got a video crew local there, but Tyson has me do all of his photo work for him. So I do
gotcha,
that once a month, and then I work for a side by side manufacturer here in McKinney. I'm just starting that this month. That's a retainer client that I'm doing every month. So it's mainly retainer work.
gotcha. That's kind of like me with my Meekum guy. Like he's actually at Harrisburg, Pennsylvania right now at a big auction. Took 25, 30 vehicles up there. Like I was watching it earlier, so it's like cool seeing the stuff I shot run across the block there on TV.
Right,
So,
right,
and with him, I never know, am I going to shoot a bone stock Model A truck, or am I going to shoot a Rolls Royce Cullinan? Like I never know what it is.
right.
Some of the rare low mile stuff, but it's always something different. It's always something fun. But
Yeah, I
you know,
shot a Mecum car last weekend. It's an old GT 500. Got 164 miles on it, but it's all been completely restored and everything. I shot it for the owner a long time ago when Complete did some work on it, and then he's getting ready to sell it, so he had me shoot again for the Mecum stuff.
that stuff's gone pretty big right now. I guess when Barrett Jackson started that on TV, and now Meekum's pretty much taken over. So
Yeah, and I shot a lot of Bring a Trailer stuff last year too.
I've got a few motorcycles. I got a guy that's collected that's trying to unload some of his collection. He's got me supposed to come up there and shoot some stuff. So
Right.
the same thing. I stay just as busy bouncing around, and I don't miss the. I guess you'd say Pepsi would be corporate world. It was a Monday through Friday gig. I
Hmm.
don't miss that. I like being able to have my own schedule, and like we were saying earlier, sitting around in a pair of shorts and no shoes on in the house.
Yeah, you can't beat it.
So, how do people find you online to keep up with your work?
Usually on social media.
What's your handle on social media?
That's Steve Marty 78 on Instagram, and Dale Martin. I just have a personal account on Facebook, and then
All
there's
right.
my website.
You keep your website up to date.
I haven't updated it since last year. I probably need to put some new Toyota and Lexus stuff up there. But
I'm the same way. My I think my website's more of a landing spot to find my social media stuff if you go looking.
right. And I haven't been real good about keeping up with Instagram. It seems like I post up stuff and it just gets lost in the mix.
You always have that one that just blows up out of nowhere, and it's usually the dumbest thing. That's something you wouldn't think to take off, but you post some killer epic deal. That's the way mine is, and then you're like, all right, well, there's 7 people that's like that, and it's like,
Yeah.
how did that happen?
I think the biggest thing I ever had on my Instagram is I took a picture of Willie Suarez's truck at Bucky's on the way to LST on the back of a trailer, and I had my finger in the middle of the lens, and I think it got like 7,000 likes. I was like, this is crazy.
Now, as a professional photographer, you don't put your finger in the middle
Yeah,
of the camera.
that's what everybody reminded me. Like, Jesus Christ, man, you're a professional and you got your finger in front of me. I'm like,
It
that's
happens to the
awkward.
best of us.
I was so excited to see the truck down beside it with my iPhone taking pictures.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man.
No
It's
problem.
like I said, it's kind of cool to see you from the beginning, to see where you've come. You've stepped up to a level that, like I said, most of us automotive photographers would kill for. So I know if you're ever anywhere near my area doing any of the Toyota stuff, I'd love to come just to hang out and watch like that.
I was
That
in
would be,
Knoxville. I was in Knoxville last fall, I think. No, it was right after December, I think. I was in Knoxville. I think that's the closest I've ever been to your area out
yeah, that's
there.
2 hours from me. So
Yeah,
yeah, anytime you come to Charlotte's 2 hours from me, anytime you do any of that Toyota stuff, I'd love just to come be a fly on the wall and watch the process. That's fascinating to me. So,
sure, sure.
my boss lets me do what I want, so I could take the day off if I needed. So,
Good, good. All right. Well, it
well,
was good being on here.
I appreciate you coming on, man. It's good catching up with you.
Yes, sir. Anytime.